you can actually look at some of the benefits and some of the demerits also of Waterfall. So as I said, there are some good things with Waterfall. It's straightforward, it's simple. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. You follow the steps blindly. The client has a clear understanding. They say that, okay, we are in the requirement stage, will take 3 months. They don't have any clue what we're doing here. Working on writing these 300-page document, the FRS or the BRD, MRD, the business requirement document, MRD, market requirements document. All these are different types of requirement documents, right? Thousands of pages of documents. Then we go to the client and say, review, we get the sign off after all the changes done. So it's fairly, there's a visibility in terms of the process, but obviously we'll have a look at the disadvantages later. And then the rigidity yields defined results. Because of the fact that it's all rigid, it's all set, everybody knows what the other person is doing, but the problem is that it is taking too much time. And if there's some sudden changes in the process, they cannot accommodate that. That's something which is a big minus point with Waterfall. And tasks are easy to classify, definitely there. So that's where the decomposition really helps there with the functional decomposition. And we were talking about the work breakdown structures in the estimation class the other day lesson. So where we're talking about the work breakdown, work does get broken down into, okay, this is the front end, this is back end, this is middleware. Front end go about doing this. Once we need to have the pages. For the pages, we need to have the designs. And for the designs, we had to have the wireframes or the mock-ups. And for the mock-ups, we need to have the requirements. So there is that kind of a clarity there, and it's easy to classify. So that's one advantage with Waterfall. But as I said, it's easy to document well. It is documentation, too much of documentation there. I was talking about the change request to change this from purple to blue, this color on the screen. And that would take at least 5, 6 pages of documents written, and then from there gets approval, another sheet added there from the reviewer, approver. Too much of documentation, too much of paperwork, too many people to actually review the stuff and approve it. So obviously, what does that mean? That means that it's taking a load of time. It's a lot of time is wasted in the process, in the review process, in the approval process. And the phases are completed one at a time. So until the requirements are done, you cannot start design. So once you have got the frozen requirements, as what we call the signed off requirements, we then pass this from BA to the technical lead or the technical architect. Then they will start looking at the requirements, say they'll start the design. From there on, it will take another 3 months for the design to complete. Once the design is complete, then only the developers would come into picture. And then from there on, once the development is done about 6 months later, that's when the testers will be brought into the team. They're not initially, there are no testers. So if you see, that's the problem with this one. Here, the software does not get tested until the end. So here you actually get the whole big product with all the functionality, and then you give that to a team of testers. Hey, there you go, now test this. You know what? They'll come back with thousands and thousands of defects. They'll report severe showstoppers, major bug, thousands of minor bugs, cosmetic bugs. If you see that list, you'll be like, Zap, oof, my gosh, you've got no less than 10,000 defects of all types, and there are hundreds of showstoppers. No way can you actually go to this market, go to the market with this build, with the product as it is. And then you go to the client and say, well, we need more budget, we need more time, we need more money, we need more effort, more people. If you want to do this, it's like the classical problem of, I think it's a bit sexist, but it's like putting 9 mothers to create a baby in 1 month. That's the classic case with Waterfall in those days. So if you've got like, oh, you need to develop in like 2 months, client wants it like by December. So let's put 10 more testers to finish this testing, and we'll have 3 more developers coming in to fix those bugs. We'll have 5 more developers creating new functionality. What are you trying to do? You're trying to add more and more fat, but at the same time, what you can't understand is there's no linear relationship with number of people with the amount of work that they do for productivity. So in effect, you're just having the flab, adding the flab onto the project without actually any clear result in terms of the productivity or the work itself. So that classic case of putting the 9 mothers to create a baby in 1 month is leading to a disaster. And that's the reason why it never worked. Waterfall, is not the way to go, because it is too cumbersome, too much of dependency on people. It is not suitable for complex. Again, another thing is the problem with you can only see so much, right? So you assume you started off with this, and then the point is, how can you actually think and estimate for something which you have not seen, which is completely new, which is very innovative concept. So for a website, like an e-commerce website, you can come up with some kind of estimate and start working because you know about it. You have got some idea. But how can you do something for example, if the senior management wants you to have a team, start working and give you the plan for working on a driverless car, for instance, the self-piloted, autopilot cars that are there. It's an innovative concept. It's not something that's already there, but of course now you've got a lot of options there. So if something like that, a new concept, a new product is being created or developed, how can you kind of take that and then plan and work towards it? Because there's no clue, and it is bound to fail. And that's the reason why waterfall projects always fail, because it could not accommodate the change that is required. Even a small change had to go through a lot of loops and cycles, and small details left incomplete could actually halt the entire project. I was talking about one project, I think, was it about last month, right? About in September, we were talking a case study of one of the projects that we did for a client based in the UK. So they were into the assessments, basically, for the candidates who come out of the university. Depending on these assessments, they can actually judge and assess which career is good for you. So that's what they call as OPQ, Occupational Personality Questionnaire. So this questionnaire was actually designed by all the psychologists. There are a lot of PhD psychologists in that client's team. They come up with the questions and all that. So we had completed the project. It took us almost a year and a half to actually come up with something, a report, and they say, hey, you know what? Yes, we did it. But you know what the client said? Your total flop show. We are going to charge you $3 million for actually spoiling this project. We wasted so much of our time. What we have got is a report after 20 minutes, whereas the non-functional requirement, which is what is the performance requirement, says that this project, the objective of this particular system, the core system that we developed, it should be able to create a report once a candidate, the graduate from the university, once they take the assessment questionnaire, once they complete that exam, I think it would hardly take 10 minutes. Once they complete that, you should get that report to the hiring manager, not to them, but the person who is hiring them, or their senior manager. They should be able to see the report within 10 minutes. Whereas at the current system was actually taking like 5 days to generate the report, because we're based on old architecture. So all of these, this is what this particular simple thing about the non-functional requirement, it completely got lost in the conversations. It was not noted. BAs did not do a good job initially. They did not understand this from the point of business. The technical lead also could not have an idea in terms of the performance. They did not take that into their consideration initially. So the architecture was completely different from what it should be. End of the day, the moral of the problem of this from this particular exercise is that we totally ignored the non-functional requirement, capturing that specification initially and getting that from the client, and that missed, and that project was a total flop, total mess. And the reason for that was that simple thing, and that really derailed the whole project. So if on hindsight, if we followed Agile, then this particular problem would have surfaced not after 1.5 years, but at least, if not a week, at least in 2 weeks' time. If not in 2 weeks, at least in 3 weeks' time, when the client would have the demo or the showcase, or when we do the sprint retrospective and the sprint review sessions. This would have certainly been discussed. It would have certainly come into the discussion. We would have discussed that, and then we had identified some solution, if not in 3 weeks, but maybe in another month, maybe, right? Depending on the complexity of the problem. But we will have some solution, something to fix that, some workaround. But it cannot be just ignored for 1.5 years, and then suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, it's totally lost. The project is like grounded, all because of simple things, right? So with the Agile methodology, that's again the greatest advantage is you're engaging the customer right from the day one. The customer is engaged with the project development team on almost a day-to-day basis. They know what is happening. They know what they're expecting this week, what the team is working on this week, what are they going to deliver, and what are they going to actually show to their users, their customers. So there is a good connect. There is a kind of bonding between the customer team and the development team. And the team works empowered. They're really empowered to do the estimation. We were talking about it yesterday. The team estimate, they do the work, they do the estimation, they do the work, they deliver, they own everything. The team does the whole thing in Agile. Whereas in Waterfall, it's not like that. Everything comes from outside, either outside or from the top management, who do not have any clue about, for example, the painting. We were talking about getting a quote from a painter. Who is the best person to actually get the quote, the estimate from? Is it the painter themselves, or somebody who is sitting in the corner office, who doesn't have any idea about painting? If you get an estimate from that person, what is the most realistic one? Obviously the one from the painter, because they do the painting themselves. They know about the intricacies involved. Well, again, another problem that it actually gives us the testing. We talked about it. You do not do the testing till about the development is done, which is about 3/4 of the project is done. That's when you do the testing, big bang, you come up with all the defects. Then it takes a lot of time to fix those defects. It takes another 1.5 years for you to fix those defects. So again, definitely a recipe for